Because I'm setting this container back up with fresh carrots, I'm making holes in the bottom of this container bigger than they were before. They were a little bit small, so I'm just using my dibber to go back through those holes and make them larger. The more drainage you've got, the better. So we're getting holes at that size now, and quite a lot of them as well. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking compost and I'm sieving it. The looser that compost is for carrots, the better. It'll enable them to grow longer and straighter. And I'm using the old compost that came out of it, and I'll probably fill this container with that, and then we'll add some fresh stuff to it. Just found another carrot. And because this is the old compost that we've already used, I'll put a good amount of fish blood and bone in it so it's full of nutrients. But we'll not be doing that all the way through that growing process, because if you put too much fertiliser in containers with carrots, that's going to cause them to fork. They don't like to be over fertilised, so I'll probably feed them a couple of times during the old growing season, and that'll be it. One or two people did ask me how I set up that container for carrots. There's another one there. So I thought it'd be worth just going through it, because the process I use is the same every time. And while we're doing this, we're actually grabbing a couple of extra carrots at the same time. Like that one. And once we've sieved it, we're going to end up with really nice fine compost. You can also add sand and make a mix of sand and compost if you want. Now I've reached that point where these containers are full, I'm going to add that fish blood and bone. These are £2.99 for a 2 kilo box from Home Bargains if you want to get some. So I'm just going to do a layer over the top of that compost. I'm not putting too much in, I'm just covering the entire surface. And then I'm just going to give that a quick mix. And then we'll fill it up and just leave about an inch or so from the top so that when we water it, it doesn't run off. So this is the last of that recycled compost that we've sieved, and we've basically filled it up 3/4 of the way. So that's saving us a bit of money already. And that's what it's all about, growing vegetables as cheap as possible. So now we'll sieve some new compost and then we'll top it up with that. So we've got recycled for half a container with a layer of fish blood and bone. Then we'll top it up with that new compost, which also contains nutrients. The key to doing this when it comes to carrots or parsnips is always sieve that compost. Now I'll just top it up with this new stuff. And this is the important part when you're doing these carrots. Don't press that down. Just shake it around, keep it loose, and then just give it a bang. And it'll settle that compost down for you, but you won't be compacting it, which is exactly the way you want to do it. What I like to do next when I'm sowing carrots, because they're such tiny seeds, is level the top of that compost out. And that's just lightly tapping on it with this piece of wood. I've just screwed an old hook to it, so we've got something to hold on to. But I'm only using the weight of this wood to level that compost. I'm not pressing it down at all. I just want all those seeds to stay at the same level. And then we end up with a really nice level surface. It's really important to try and space your carrots out as evenly as possible. You don't want big bunches of them all growing in the same area, because then thinning them out becomes a bit more of a task. But carrot seeds are so tiny, it's really difficult to space them out correctly. But there is one method that you can use that might help you, and that's this. I've decided to try this method for spacing out those seeds. These are old cells that we've been growing plants in, but you can see quite close together, but not too close together to cause problems with carrots. And I've also got these ones, and they're a little bit bigger, so I could space them out a little bit more if I wanted to try and save myself thinning them out at a later date, which can be a bit of a pain. And I'll basically put a couple of seeds to each cell, and then if two do germinate, I can just pinch one off, and I won't have to disturb the roots of those plants at all. But before I do that, I always make sure that the compost is nice and soaked. Carrot seeds won't germinate if they keep drying out. So the key to germination is keeping that moisture in this compost until those seeds have germinated. So we'll make sure it's nice and moist. And then I'll get these templates back on. And I've put a piece of string across top of this in case you're wondering, because when you fill these containers with compost, they have an habit of spreading, and I just want to keep it uniform all the way down. And then I'm just going to take a pen and make holes through each of these cells into that compost, but I'm not doing them deep. So I'll go down every single hole and I'll just make a shallow hole in that compost. And now we've got everything perfectly spaced out, and because we wet that compost, the holes have stayed where we've put them. It's not that dry that it's fallen straight back in. But as you can see, these are very close together, so we're only going to get quite small carrots. So if you wanted to grow bigger carrots, we could just go with that different template and do exactly the same. It's still leaving you a bit of width either side as well for those outer rows to expand, and a little bit away from edge. And that will give us 4 rows of carrots. Now I've just rubbed those holes away so I can try a bigger one. You only want to be going around 1/2 centimetre, and now you can see that these carrots have got a lot more room to grow. And I'm going to go with that spacing because we got a lot of carrots out of this before with just 3 rows, and now we can have 4. So now that's all been done. Now I'm going to be sowing those 92 again because they work really well. So I'll get a few seeds out to start with. And what we want to be doing is trying to get a couple of seeds in each hole. So just take your time with this bit if you do it like that. If you get 3 in, don't worry about it, because once these start to grow, we'll keep the biggest one and we'll cut the weaker one away. If you put a couple of seeds in, at least you guarantee yourself some germination. I also want to make sure I cover them very lightly, so I'm using a colander. So that's basically going to put a dusting of compost over these holes, and then those tiny seedlings will be able to push through that surface a lot easier. So I'll just go along and basically just keep going until I've filled all these holes in. If you want to do it the other method, just do that. Just push that compost together, but don't press it down. I'll give those another good watering, and then we're done. So that's one way of sowing all your carrot seeds and getting them perfectly spaced. So although you will have to pinch the tops off any that produce more than one seedling, keeping the bigger one, but at least you know that spacing's in place for the duration of that plant growing, and everything is going to have enough room to grow a bigger carrot as you decide. Not everybody has got those cells that are used to make that template, but if you go to your local market you can get these. And if you ask store owners, a lot of time they'll just give you some for free, and they've got little holes in them, so you could cut one of these and use that as a template as well. Failing that, a piece of wire, the ones that have little squares in them, anything that you can adapt to fit into there is going to save you a lot of rag later on down the line. Or if you want to, you could just put a cane the full length of this and then just direct sow your seeds that way. But then you're going to have to thin them out quite a bit more. There is one last thing that we do need to do though, and it is important, especially for carrots. I'm going to cover the whole thing with cling film, because as I mentioned earlier in video, carrot seeds can be a bit of a pain for not germinating if they dry out. So the way I combat that is putting cling film all the way across the top of this container. Basically create myself an homemade propagator. It's also the cheapest propagator you'll ever make. So now we've got that in place, that's going to hold in moisture all the time until you see these seeds starting to poke through, and then you take this off. That's one way you can do your carrot container to guarantee perfect spacing for your carrots and maximise the chances of germination by putting a couple of seeds in each hole and then covering it with some cling film. And this will be left in greenhouse because them seeds are going to germinate a lot faster if it's a little bit warmer. Anyway, thank you very much for being part of the channel. I really appreciate it. And if you want to see what else we do as we go through the next few months, please hit that subscribe button, press that notifications bell, and I look forward to seeing you then. Take care.